Thank you. I stay at every job about a year. I know I look very young, so I appreciate that. Let me ask you a question as I get started and before I introduce our guest. How many of you all use artificial intelligence? Any idea? Many? How many of y'all use Alexa? Siri? Netflix? Amazon? All right. So all those things are obviously is some form of artificial intelligence. And if anyone has kids or grandkids that are in the teens and so forth, what they use and how they interact is completely different than our normal way of doing business. Now, matter of fact, how many of y'all used a map, an actual map, in the last 10 years? Like you opened up a map and you did B4 and you found it. Okay. You all should be ashamed of yourself. Okay. Another thing is, how many of y'all use email? Everybody uses email, right? You know, kids don't use text, constant text, Snapchat. All right, so we get smaller and smaller, and that's interesting. So just what I want to get at is how things are different. You all know this, but we still get in the habit of doing things the same. And something I always point out are people are comfortable with change as long as it's the same as it was before. And that's a concern for us. So what we look at artificial intelligence is a computer system able to perform tasks that humans do, right? That's what we have, okay? And what we want to do is personalize our experience and personalize experience for kids here in the state of Texas. We deal with a lot of institutions, 2-year, 4-year, and we hear a lot of stories around websites, and we need to make the website better, and it doesn't do that. That's not where students are, particularly younger students, at all. Okay, so what we're doing here at the coordinating board is we're developing a virtual advising system for the state. Okay, now each of your institutions have your own, and you might have your own chatbot and what may have you, but there are a lot of people who are in high schools. We have Advise Texas, where we have near-peer advisors in high schools across the state, about 112. As you all know, there's 8,000 schools in the state of Texas from K to 12. So what we want is an opportunity for students to connect and get advising when they're not talking to their counselor, they're not particularly in school. If any of y'all have ever spoke to a student in high school, do you know how hard it is to get to your counselor? I've asked my kids, well, why don't you go here? Well, I can't go here. We can't be in the hallway, and then I have to go to class, and then I have to go to lunch, and then I have to get on the bus, and they can't find that time. And then you heard Dr. Rennick talk about when people ask questions. I mean, it's at midnight, it's at 1 o'clock, where our systems aren't built that way. So that's something we're really looking at is how to serve the students in the state of Texas. So we want to meet students where they are. Okay, they're on their phones. Anybody who's traveled with students or teenagers or even people in the 20s, you're looking for a hotel or resort that has a nice view, all you can drink, I'm sure you're drinking soda, all you can eat, and what they need is Wi-Fi. That's all they need. If it has Wi-Fi, I'm great. If it doesn't have Wi-Fi, then it's a really bad trip. So we're trying to meet students where they are, and we want to be able to have a ability to scale. In a state this size, you could have hundreds of thousands of questions, and we want to be able to, you're not going to have the type of call center to respond to those sort of questions. So we're going to have live people as well as the artificial intelligence actually answering these questions. So I'll tell you how it's supposed to look. The next side of it is we talk about stop-outs, returners. So if I stopped out of an institution, I've moved, I've gone on, I've worked, military, what may have you, who do I call if I want to go back to school? I got to call the school I left? I don't have a high school counselor to speak to. So we're trying to produce something or create something that is answering those questions also for people who want to return and want to understand how. Obviously, you see the stats around the number of students we have in the state of Texas, as well as how many have left. But the bigger issue for us at the coordinating board is making sure we have consistent information. If they call us, if they text us, if they have a question, we'll try to answer to the best of their ability. If they're in your region or talk about your school, we send them to you. We'll send them to your chatbot. We'll send them to a number you give us. We'll send them to a website if you want, right? And for us, one of the greatest needs are the data that we get. If we get 500 questions about your website not answering a question, we'll let you know your website's missing this or it's hard to find, right? Or when we get certain information about our own processes at the coordinating board, we can fix those sort of things based off the data we receive. So that's where we are with ours. I'm not going to take any questions from me at this stage, but I want to turn over to the experts who are here to talk about what what they're working on. We have three great panelists today. One is Gilbert Becerra. He's the Vice President for Student Success at Alamo College's District, Palo Alto College to be exact. He oversees the Division of Student Success, and it's comprised of 17 different functional units and over 120 full and part-time higher education professionals. After Gilbert, we'll go into John Rome. He is the Deputy Chief Information Officer and a 20-year employee of Arizona State University, so welcome to Texas here. He's an experienced IT leader, educator, consultant, technologist, and innovator with a long history of working in higher education. And we also have Dr. Wilson. He's an instructional designer in the Center for Teacher Excellence at SMU, Southern Methodist University. His research focuses on the scholarship of teaching and learning, design thinking, instructional design, and learning technologies. So we're excited about the three guests we have, and our first guest, we'll turn it over to Mr. Becerra from Alamo College District.
Thanks, Dr. Booker. I appreciate it. So as I was driving in this morning, I was reflecting about when I started 20 years ago, and I was a small admissions counselor at SMU, in fact. And I always thought about how great it would be to have the ear of the president, and I wish I could tell him all these ideas I had. And here I find myself with a room full of presidents and chancellors and regents and trustees. So I'm going to give you a good 45 slides of what I think today, okay? But no, thank you for the opportunity to be here. And so I wanted to kind of just give you a little bit of context or overall kind of look at Alamo Colleges and kind of Palo Alto College and what we look like, just for a little bit of context. We're a group of about 5 different colleges, 91,000 students overall, total credit and CE. Palo Alto College itself is about 10,000 students. We're at HSI. About 70% of our students come in with needing developmental education. 31% of our families have children below the poverty line. So again, it's a little bit of where we are. We're located in South Bexar County. We also have some of our trustees here today, so I thank them for being here as well. So it's just a little bit about us. We were recently also recognized as an Aspen Top 10 finalist, so we're very, very excited about that. We've come a long way. It's been a long journey from where we started to where we are now, and it's been a group effort from all the colleges and Palo Alto College, of course, leading that. So these are a couple of things that we've tried to kind of keep front of mind at Palo Alto College in terms of things that we discuss and we talk about. And I think first and foremost is with technology is really ensuring that your SIS is fully leveraged all the way, or your ERP, whatever you're using, Bannerolution or Workday or whatever product that you're engaged with, is that you're doing a regular assessment of that product and that it is fully leveraged. And that can take a lot of different forms, whether it's part of a formal program review every 5 years or part of a student affairs assessment, which SACS is now asking schools to move forward with formal assessment of student affairs units. But I think a lot of times we hear folks, and there's perceptions on campuses about, we paid for the Honda, right? When we're told we were going to get the Cadillac, right? You hear a lot of talk like that on campus when it comes to SIS and information systems. But I think it's important that folks on campus know this is what we paid for and we're fully leveraging it. It's being used to the fullest of its ability. So that's, I think, an important conversation so folks understand that who are on campus, because that's their primary tool. We're pulling data from it. We're using it to manage student persistence, completion, and onboarding. So it's really important that a regular assessment is being done of that. And so we hope that CTOs are taking that into account. And secondly, I think the other piece that we really, struggle with, or things that at different institutions we've learned, is that the SIS groups, right, they love billable hours, right? And so it's really, really important that we ensure that we have the talent on campus to manage these things, because sometimes it turns into, well, we have to put in a ticket, and that's going to have to go to Canada, and it's going to have to get escalated to Germany, and all these different things, right? And so we want to make sure that we have the talent on campus to manage these information systems, which also will bring down costs when you look at external vendors, because a lot of times we have duplication, right? You have a vendor who's doing something that your SIS can do and usually has a native product to manage, but we're not leveraging it fully, so we're paying another vendor to do something we already own. And so having the appropriate talent on board to manage these things and investing in that talent is critically important. And then I think the other piece that's also really, really important is ensuring that you've got a strong process for ensuring best fit technology, right? Whether that's your RFP process and who's part of that process, Sometimes it's a purchasing department who's managing it, but it's also important to make sure you have the end users there to be part of that conversation all along the way to ensure that you're getting exactly what you need and it's going to have the greatest impact for each dollar that you're going to be using. And then finally, one of the things that's also front of mind with the Alamo colleges and Palo Alto College is the idea of digital equity, right? So a lot of schools have laptop checkout programs, and we're going to give you this technology and that technology, and then you find out, well, less than 50% of your student base has access to high-speed internet. Currently, there's 30 million Americans that don't have access to high-speed internet. We know that students across the country with family incomes less than $25,000 don't have access to high-speed internet, and that while they have higher digital media usage, it's focused around cable TV and not educational media or learning media. So these are just some of the things that we kind of try to keep front of mind as we look at our programming and how we approach our digital strategy on campus. So with regard to artificial intelligence, again, I'll try to be brief here. Three of the big things that I've had experience with have been the use of virtual agent at a previous institution. And the virtual agent sat on the website. It was pre-filled with hundreds of questions from every single department on campus. It was an available 24/7 product, and students were able to log on, ask questions any time of day or night, and it dramatically decreased. It cut our phone call traffic in half because students were able to get those questions answered. And then it was an adaptive product, so the product continued to grow and grow and grow. So again, the adaptive learning technology and virtual agent technology is really, I think, a place that a lot of schools need to look. It will save money, and it will also save human interaction time, which is also money. Dr. Rennick talked earlier about the chatbot focus, and so I won't go too deep into that because there's been a lot of discussion on it, but that's another product that we're currently looking to bring on board at Palo Alto College to look at how we can better serve students in a two-way communication. So a lot of digital communication via text message is very one-directional, and the answer, whether you're using an EAB product or you're using some other kind of student experience suite, it has to be bi-directional, right? It has to go backwards and forwards. And so that's a really, really critical piece as you speak with vendors and you look to bring on new technology. The part that we're really, really excited about at Palo Alto College is our investment in machine learning, which is a form of artificial intelligence. And so machine learning refers to the predictive analytics piece of business intelligence. So business intelligence, broken into different pieces. You've got descriptive analytics, which all of us use in the room. You have the predictive analytics piece, which a lot of us use with Civitas, right, to predict student outcomes and student behavior. But then you also have the prescriptive piece, right? Prescriptive analytics, which is that third more important piece that schools are starting to move into. So prescriptive analytics will not only allow you to enter structured data, numbers, and those kinds of things, but it allows you to also enter photos, video, all kinds of unstructured media to help you determine the next course of action. So after you have your predictive analytics and you have an idea of what the different scenarios can be, the prescriptive piece helps you develop what those possible next steps or next solutions can be. And so at Alamo Colleges, we utilize what's called 4 disciplines of execution, right? Which includes having a compelling scoreboard. And so that's really, really big to us, is having access to data that informs our decision making. And so we've developed dashboards around these analytics, and we've also developed performance scorecards, which we use. And so one of our big examples is our advising scorecard. So with our students, we were, one of our big questions as we were trying to move the needle on persistence was, how do we know that what we're doing is working, right? Which should always be your first question. And so one of the things we started to do was really sit down and look at the interactions with our students and our advisors, and how do we define an interaction? How do we define a communication? Is that broadcast email that is one directional, or is that a two-way communication? We looked at productive grade rate. We also looked at contact rate between advisors and students. So we looked at a lot of different metrics to really identify how we were interacting with advisors. In addition to that, the Alamo Colleges also has a student success policy that outlines about 14 different performance metrics for the Alamo Colleges that are very, very well defined, that each college has to speak to our Board of Trustees and report on every semester. And so, in order to develop a compelling scorecard, we needed to make sure that we knew what all those metrics were and how we were doing. What was our baseline data? What did it say? And so that really helped us develop a tool or a product that your frontline person or frontline advisor or recruiter or whoever it is able to access easily. That's the other big piece of it, that while you have big data that's being crunched through machine learning, whether you're using SPSS or Stata or some kind of statistical packaging software, the other piece of that is putting it into a digestible format for the end user. So what we did was with the scorecards, we made it very, very easy for an advisor to pull up the scorecard and say, I have this many students on early alert, or 40% of I have a 40% student contact rate. And then things started to emerge. Different trends started to emerge. We started to notice that those folks that had a higher contact rate had fewer early alerts. Again, so not necessarily, no-brainer, right? So not necessarily causal, but there is a relationship there. There is a relationship. And I think that as we try to distill what's going on with persistence, because it's not a silver bullet, right? Nothing is a silver bullet. But the data really, really helped us refine and align our actions. It helped us move forward with deciding where we had areas of improvement. And those were critical conversations we had across campus. And again, we were able to support those conversations with actual data points. And I'll leave you with one last example. I was speaking to University of Connecticut about their predictive analytics and what they used. And what they had done was they took data from their Real College survey or from their Healthy Mind survey or from CESI or any nationally normed survey. They took the data and then they dropped it into a data visualization tool, whether it's BI or Tableau or any other number of tools. And then they sat faculty down in a classroom from multiple disciplines, and they said, you know what, I'd like you to run the data for students of color who are Pell eligible, that are first generation, and that are female. And so each faculty member using the data visualization tool was able to run the data for their own discipline, for their own population, and really have a better idea of what was going on. So again, I think part of analytics and business intelligence data is ensuring that it's in a digestible format for the end user, whether that be an advisor, a dean, or a faculty member, for everyone to have a conversation. So after they ran the data in the classroom, then they started to have more robust discussion about what was going on, and it wasn't just isolated to student success or the folks, advisors, folks working on that end. It was this kind of viral, kind of infective discussion where folks had the opportunity to discuss their own populations and be informed with data. So again, making sure that you have a compelling scorecard is critically important, because then that creates that cadence of accountability, right? Which is another piece of the 4 disciplines of execution. Creating a cadence of accountability of what does the scorecard say? What does the scorecard say? And also ensuring that the scorecard doesn't sit there inactive, or that no one's looking at it, that it's refreshed every semester, it's refreshed every term. Making sure, again, that you have on-time data. On-time data is critical, and making sure that you're reviewing it in a timely manner. And then the most important piece, use of the results. What are you doing with it? Which is really important. So again, that's my take on artificial intelligence. And again, our focus is on that machine learning piece, which has led us to make better decisions than we were making 10 years ago, using data to help us move forward. So thank you very much. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Booker.
What we'll do is we'll take questions at the end for everybody, and then we have a break. We'll try not to go too far into the break, but we'll take questions at the end after everyone speaks. So I'll turn over to Mr. Rohn. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. They changed it. They have Dr. Wilson on here next. I apologize. That's why I guess your nameplates are the way they are. So.
Hello, everyone. So I'm here today to talk about artificial intelligence and instructional design and how those pieces are related to each other. And so I've been at the conference since yesterday with all of you, and have been having some interesting conversations with folks about data, about artificial intelligence, and about technology in general. And so as an instructional designer, my focus isn't so much on the technology as it is the process for implementing and having a good execution of the technology implementation that you want to do. Now, I must say that I have worked with computer science faculty at SMU in the areas of machine learning and natural language processing. So I am familiar with how this stuff is being taught. But today I want to focus specifically on what all of you can think about and what all of you can do on your own campuses, so that if you decide to use artificial intelligence, which the state of Texas is strongly suggesting that you do, you have a framework or a reference point on how you might best go about this. So I'm often at gatherings, and when the inevitable conversation comes up about, what it is you do, when someone asks me what I do, I usually say I'm an instructional designer, and about 2 seconds after that, the eyes glaze over, and that's the end of the conversation. So I thought it would be important to have a common point of reference for what instructional design is, the breadth of the knowledge base that it covers, and then again, like I said, what you can do using instructional design strategies to make sure that your technology implementations go as well as we all hope that they do. So instructional design is the science and art is important, of creating detailed specifications for the development, evaluation, and maintenance of situations which facilitate learning or performance. Learning or performance. And so instructional design covers a lot of territory. It's a big package. And so this is considered to be the content area domain for any instructional designer who has a master's degree or higher. Mostly at SMU, I work with faculty members on things related to learning and learning processes, learning and performance context, which you've heard discussed here already. And then here's where we get into the AI kind of piece. Instructional and non-instructional strategies. So AI is a non-instructional strategy, in my opinion. Also, media and delivery systems. And since Dr. Rennick and others have talked about AI and the app and how things get pushed out to students on a smartphone app, it also involves media and delivery systems. And then this is an important aspect, designers and design processes. So don't think of AI, or rather I encourage you not to think of AI as a big package that you're going to be forced to swallow, or that your faculty are going to be forced to swallow, or that your campuses are going to be forced to swallow. Instructional design is the discipline that allows you to actually not take what the salesperson is selling to you, but actually put your own footprint, your own stamp on it, because I think it was the former House Speaker, Tip O'Neill, who said that all politics is local. Well, all education, for my purposes, is local. And the context where you are on your campuses is important to bring to that package when you're implementing AI, any technology, or instructional system. So this is Instructional Design 101, and so I don't often have a chance to go over these basics, but these are process points that should be on your radar as you're looking at artificial intelligence specifically, or as you're looking at a technology implementation. So we heard a lot about analysis already. I was talking to Susan from Institutional Research at her college campus, and then you heard Gilberto mention it. It's important to have a lay of the land. What is the context for your AI? Who are your students? How many men do you have? How many women do you have? Are there military veterans on your campus? What is the SES? What is your campus population? How do you know these things about your campus and your context? Do some students live on campus, or are they commuting? Analysis is critical, and it could be as involved as a secondary data analysis, going into a data warehouse, pulling numbers, or it could also be predictive analytics. The idea here is that you want to have as solid a picture as you can, written up in a document that you can go back to, indicating what your context is. So that's the analysis phase. And then we get into the design phase, and this may be where you can involve your campuses, especially faculty. And I don't want to overstate the importance of having faculty buy-in on all of these issues. They need to be players on the team as you're implementing AI or whatever the technology is. And so you may have read some of Tim Brown's work in the Harvard Business Review. He's one of the promoters of what's called design thinking. And in design thinking, what you essentially do is you put people in a room, and for a half a day or a day, or it might be at a strategic planning retreat, you come up with ideas to address the contextual problems that you have identified as part of your analysis. This can involve people at the high end or the top of the food chain, provosts or top administrators, but don't forget the folks who are on the front lines dealing with students every day. The advisors, the counselors, the faculty members, the maintenance workers who do groundskeeping. A lot of times students will talk to these people and tell them things they won't tell officials or administrators whose job it is to know these things. So you want to have a diverse group is my point. And then you run through some design thinking exercises, which can be characterized as inspiration, implementation, and then execution. Development. This is where you actually begin to build things based on your analysis and the design that you have come up in an iterative process. So the traditional instructional designer thinks linearly. You have a set of outcomes that you want to achieve, and you build a course, for my example now, until you get to the end of the line and you have 10 units for 15 weeks. In the fast-changing environment that is the university today when it comes to these sorts of technology issues, the linear approach is not necessarily the best one to take. Because, right, you don't want to build out a whole AI infrastructure on your campus and then get to the end of the line and then realize, hey, this thing is not doing what we thought it was going to do. So think in iterative cycles. Think of rapid prototyping. Think of agile development. This allows you to create a prototype, test it with students or with others, the users, the end users of the system, and then make changes based on the feedback that you get from that prototype. So you're developing in pieces. Think of it as pieces. You don't have to do a whole project all at one time. It's better, for purposes of this AI conversation, that you do it in pieces. Implementation. Pilot test things. Get a test group of students, or get a test group of faculty, or get a test group of advisors, and actually take that prototype, put these folks in a room with it, or put them online, and then read from that experience as a focus group or as a survey, what is the feedback on what it is you've decided to do as a result of your analysis and your design. And then so you go back with that feedback into your iterative cycle, and then you change what it is that you have to address what the need is of the faculty or the students or the population that you're trying to address, in this case with AI. Last but not least, evaluation. There are different ways to evaluate things, but we've already heard about how it's important to have data and to be able to go back and using evidence, say this is not only what we designed and what we did, but this is why we did it, and this is the result we have, and this is how we're going to move forward. And so that's Instructional Design 101, and my name's Doug Wilson, and that's my contact information, and I'll be around after the event, after the meeting, to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
I'll get started, and then maybe you can find the slide deck.
Yeah.
I think it's in a different PowerPoint, so. Anyway, well, first of all, I'm really glad to be here. I'm from Arizona, as you might want to tell. So some of you are geographically challenged. ASU is located in Arizona. We're actually located in the metropolitan Phoenix area. Maybe some of you have been there before. But anyway, thanks for the invitation to be here. A little bit about our institution. I'll go through this really quickly, and then I'll talk about some of the technology we're using. I'm an IT guy, but I've also spent like 25 years around retention. So it seems my whole life has been worried about how do we retain students. So a couple data points are, much like GSU, we're an institution that I'm proud of who we include. We're also very large, 110,000 students, 38,000 of those online. But you also notice the number right there. We've moved our retention number to 86% over the last 13 years from about I think it was 76%. So while we're growing, we're also improving our retention, which I think is a great story for us. And a lot of it's around data and how do we use data and how do we do the outreach, much like what you heard this morning today. And we collaborate very closely with Georgia State, as well as we have a lot of alliances out there. We just announced one with Uber. If you're a driver, you come to ASU, you go there for free. We have 8,000 pure online Starbucks employees, and so we announced that program. So we do a lot of innovative things there as well. But my wife doesn't like when I say this, but I brought my girlfriend along with me, and her name is Alexa. So I noticed that some of you have Alexa, so let me see if she works. Alexa, say hello.
Sorry, I don't know that.
Alexa, ask Texas, do you know where you're at?
Do I know where I'm at? Of course I do. Remember when you set my location settings in the Alexa mobile app? I'm in the great state of Texas, and the best place in world music, Austin. I'm at the Hilton Airport Hotel attending the Texas Higher Education Leadership Conference. There sure are a lot of smart people in the room. Oh boy, I forgot to wear my cowgirl hat and boots. Oh wait, I don't have a head, legs, or hands. Let's get this thing started. Giddy up!
Okay. So we've done a lot around retention. We have chatbots, we use the Admit Hub, but I thought maybe I would just focus in a quick amount of time just what we're doing around voice. So some of us remember 1995, what happened then, the internet came, and we were kind of scared about it then. Remember in 2007, the iPhone came? Well, in 2015, voice came, and I think that it's the next technology disruptor that we have to pay attention to. So the Alexa work that I'm doing on my team, this is really more like a moonlighting job. It's going to become more common, but I'll tell you about some of the things we've done. About two years ago, we were able to put 1,500 of these dots in an engineering residence hall. We also built the official skill, meaning that we could ask it questions specifically about ASU, and it could answer about 500 or more questions out. So some really great stuff. Students loved it out there. We also, as I said, we built the official skill. Engineering program classes also included 2 weeks, how to build these skills right here. So I taught a 9-year-old to build one in about 10 minutes a few weeks ago at a hackathon I'll tell you about. But it's getting to the point where this is very accessible now to build these type of things that we want to do. The other thing that we've done recently is that as a recruitment tool, last spring we were looking to bring in out-of-state scholars, and so we offered them free Echo Dots, who cares? But we also gave them a Willy Wonka golden ticket. If you come to ASU, 10 of you will win $5,000 in scholarships. 10 of you will win a free trip to Amazon to meet Jeff Bezos. We lied about the Jeff Bezos part, but we actually brought in 700 students to do that. And we just had a hackathon a few weekends ago, and the students were very happy. Really great ideas. One of the skills was around recycling. The other one was around student stress and anxiety. So really great ideas of how to do that. And then finally, I think next fall we're looking at a personalized skill. Now it's more of a communal skill, but where it asks sort of general questions, but we'll eventually be able to ask the questions like, let me see, I didn't even try this out today. Alexa, ask Fitbit how I'm doing.
You have taken about 1,800 steps and have been active for around 10 minutes today.
So I've been sitting around.
Today's the day. Let's do this.
Okay.
Do you want to rate this skill?
No, but you can see, actually it's getting my personalized data. So next fall, we can already do this, but as you can imagine, people are very leery about this device that's listening. And so there's a lot of things that we're dealing with right now. Even when we first started the project last 2 falls ago, everyone said, no, you can't do it. Residents folks said, you can't do it. And then it took our president to say, well, President, do you want to tell our president we're not doing this or not? And we ended up doing it. So anyway, a little bit more about this. And so quickly, what were some of the ideas our students came up with? One of my favorite was the talking Billy Bass. It's kind of creepy to see Alexa come out of this voice right here. Also, this is one
Alexa,
of my favorites too.
Tell RoboBlue forward.
Sending a robot command.
You can hear that.
Alexa, tell RoboBlue right.
Sending the robot command.
Alexa, tell RoboBlue to pee.
Sending the robot.
And this is why I love students, you know. But anyway, there's a little bit more about, if you go out to our website, you can see, but it was really, it ended up being more than just a recruiting effort. I mean, we have 700 cohorts of these students, 100 of them participated in the hackathon, and as I said, came up with some brilliant ideas out there. And then, of course, I think some of you know that we're known to be the most innovative institution 4 years running. And so let's see if Alexa knows that. Alexa, ask Texas, who's the most innovative institution?
Sorry, John. I didn't quite hear that. I'm a little nervous in front of all these beautiful people.
Let me ask her again. Alexa, ask Texas, who is number one in innovation? Alexa, ask Texas, who's number one in innovation? Sometimes she doesn't listen.
Why, Arizona State University, of course. How else would I be able to answer your questions?
All right, so that's all I have.
So one thing we wanted to get out of this today, and you heard Dr. Rennick talk about, is understanding how this could possibly be used on your campus. So for us, we're trying to use this for the state to help any student that has any sort of advising question to get information. So we're talking, we call it understanding. So hundreds of thousands of understandings. They're combing everyone's website. They're combing our website. But at the same time, it's not just going to be the artificial intelligence. For us, we're actually going to have advisors, people who were near-peer advisors at K to 12, people getting their master's in college counseling. We actually have live people there also. So if the system can't answer it, it'll turn it over to a live person, and then hopefully that'll build the understandings of it, which I think is critical. The other side of it is just the sheer amount of information you're going to get back from the types of questions people are asking. We make a lot of assumptions as we get older in our profession, and we have to continue to reflect and think about whether we're making the right choices and the right decisions. And I think with this sort of technology, and I went around the room to figure out, we talked about email, right? You do understand kids don't have email anymore, but we still use email. Matter of fact, if you look at a kid's phone, it's a contest to see how high that number can get of not answering or responding to an email. So that sort of process is something we thought was great and new technology, and is now come and gone. So we have to actually address that. Let me ask you, how many of y'all ever owned a record? Record? Yeah. My wife asked for a record player for the holidays. How many had an 8-track? Owned 8-track? Cassette? All right. CD? All right, now iPods and then into your phones and anything else, right? So the way, it's funny, my daughter keeps wanting to stop the radio. She wants me to be quiet because I'm on the phone so she can listen to her song, which when I grew up, if you wanted to record your song, you had to wait for it and get it and make sure the DJ shut up just in time, and you get it and you pause and you tape over something else, right, all that. And I looked at her and I said, you can listen to any song you want, anytime you want. Why are we stopping to listen to this one? But in her haste, everything is right now. It has to be right now, and their expectation is right now. And we keep saying and trying to fight that. It doesn't have to be patient, sit and be quiet, put your phone down. All those things that we were raised and taught is not where they are. So I struggle with that as a father, but as an employee of the coordinating board, we in higher education really have to rethink how we do business constantly. And I don't think we do that fast enough. And I think the people we're asking are the same people who are just like us. I mean, look at the room. I mean, we're not diverse in our thinking generally in the room. If you start to deal with generational differences, is how we do things. And I would imagine most of your leadership rooms are the exact same way. I know the coordinating board is. We think we're pretty fancy, but we're not as fancy as we think. And I know we're being taped. So I say all that to say, please try to be an undercover boss at times. I don't know if you all call your own systems or look up on the website. Please do that as often as possible. It'll really give you an idea of what a student has gone through, or sit with a student and have them do it because they're going to ask questions that you didn't think about. That said, do you all have any questions? So I don't have to get to mine that I came up with, but do you have any questions about artificial intelligence, chatbot, or anything like that? Yes?
So John, the concept is for Alexa to become the chatbot, is that right? But in that format.
So she'll be like one of the many modes that we deliver that information. So whether it's, so you can't really have one of those in the center of a class, right? So the idea is that you have this corpus of knowledge that you can then deliver, say, through a text platform, whether it's through a web page, whether it's through your mobile phone, whether it's through voice. So part of the challenge right now is like, how do you take this corpus of knowledge? You heard Tim this morning talk about those 2,000 questions, let's say. How do you put it in a place it's constantly learning and then deliver on the mode that you want right now? So we realize right now that this is a little bit gimmickry, no doubt about it when we do this. But we know that this is going to be one of the ways that students can do it. So they could basically ask, instead of calling the call center, the help center, they can actually ask those questions. Or they could, like we go through a text, do it that way. So that's kind of the plan that we're looking at. But still, we're in early days right now. So think about 2007, how much the iPhone has changed since then. We just started like voice. And then we've realized now it just can't be voice. It has to be this multimodal way of delivering information.
Any other questions? Yes.
Yes, I'm the guy that always brings it in late. So yes, they do have it. I think it'll be available on the website. If not, I'm really hard to find. It's john@asu.edu. I've been there a long time, so you can find it that way too.
Somebody else?
One of the advantages of chatbot, obviously, is you can see what people are asking and when they're using it. Do you have the same capability using them?
For the voice, it's relatively limited now. I don't think it's ever going to change. You can actually get back what questions. So we've programmed in over 500 questions into ours. Like they want to know when our finals, when is financial aid due. So we can actually know the correct one. Unfortunately, we want to know the questions students ask that don't get there. So the only way we've been able to find that out is through surveys. And surveys with a lot of incentive. That's what we've done for those students. And we've gotten back, great information of what they want. One of the biggest examples, they want to know office hours of faculty members. And you think about that, how hard that is, first of all, to capture that data in a consistent form. So those are the things that we're learning about. And they want personalized information as well. They want to know how, when is my next class? How do I get to this class? And so we're actually working on that right now. We have it working, but again, we're still really leery about personalized data. We're not. We're more worried, trying to get this through our legal counsel. You can imagine, they wanted to pull the plug. They said, think about the headline, ASU distributes 1,500 listening devices in new residence hall. They literally pulled the plug, and then Dr. Crow heard about our president, and he said, that's not happening. So you can imagine. So we're kind of waiting around just for people to catch up to this. I know, a lot of you don't want them in your house because you're afraid they're listening to you, but it's just going to be the new normal, so I think we're just going to have to get used to it. It's just like the Google browser, you're getting information, it's growing that corpus just like Alexa or the Google Home or Siri, they're putting that information in.
Getting used to that is great. I know we're in on time, and I have one housekeeping thing, but something I said in 1996, I used to call my father when I had great ideas and said, Dad, I got a great idea. This internet thing's going to jump off. And I was fresh out of law school, and I said, this internet thing's going to be huge. I have a great idea. Why don't we rent videos through this internet? And he says in 1996, that's stupid. There's a Blockbuster on every corner. Why would we ever rent videos on the internet? So he was also the same person who picked the Betamax that beat out the VHS. So I'm only saying is we have to get outside ourselves to reach these students where we are and where they are. We just have to. And I call it the windows effect. You look through a window and see outside, but if you look a certain way, you can see yourself at the exact same time. And a lot of times we look outside and see it's raining, but we don't realize we don't have an umbrella or a raincoat or anything. We have to really look at what our students are doing and be honest with ourselves. I think Tim said it. Are we part of this? What could we do to be better for our students? And you'll see that with the coordinating board with our Are You Ready campaign. Not just our students college ready when they show up, but are we student ready when they show up? And that's what we're going to continue to work on. And if anything the coordinating board can be helpful on that, please let us know because we want to be. That said, I want to thank the panelists. Thank you so much.